Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of AUHSD Future Talks. I'm your host, Superintendent Michele Matsuda, the superintendent of the Anaheim Union High School District, a large urban district in Southern California with about 27,000 students over 5 cities. And as our 7,000 plus podcast listeners know, this show is dedicated to the future of education for not only our students, but students across the region and across the United States. Today we have two amazing teachers in our district at Catella High School, Cheryl Campos and Michele Gonzalez. Welcome, ladies, to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So we usually start with sort of what is your calling and how did you get involved in education? So Cheryl, I know you are an SDC teacher. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And how did you get involved in teaching, Cheryl?
Yes. So I've always wanted to be a teacher from as far back as I can remember. I went and got my single subject credential in history in 2010. And so if you remember, that was a time where there was just massive layoffs. So I did not end up with a teaching position that year. I knew my passion was education, so I went through a variety of jobs that were education related, college and career specialist, SAT tutor, etc. And then I landed at an independent studies charter school, and I realized that I really had a knack for helping individual students, and I especially found a passion in helping students who had learning disabilities. And so I went back to school and got my education specialist credential, and am here now.
Here you are. So Cheryl, you said that education was always your calling. Why? Was there a teacher or someone that in your family that inspired you to become a teacher? What was the link?
I have younger siblings, and I've always enjoyed steering the ship and taking charge. I really have a calling and a passion for empowering others and, providing just better
model, right?
Right. Yeah, giving students opportunities and helping people find their potential. So that's been a passion of mine.
Thank you for that. Michele, you're an English teacher at Catella High School. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I've been teaching at Catella. This is my 23rd year here at Catella, and I'm a Catella alumni also. So teaching was not necessarily my first calling, but I did know I wanted to help. Like when I started college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was like, I know I want to work with people and I want to help them do something. So first I was like, maybe I'll be a physical therapist. And then my dad's like, no, you're really good in math, so go be an engineer. And so I took those classes and I'm like, but that's not what I'm feeling. And so I actually just started doing the general ed program at Cal State Fullerton and just took courses. And I really loved grammar. And I've loved grammar since I was young. I was the one that in school, when you were doing grammar and they asked, like, who knows how to do it, want to write on the board, I was the first one to jump up. I love to dissect things and figure out how it works. And so I started there, and I actually got a job through Cal State Fullerton as a past tutor and I worked for South Junior High and Catella High School. And my job was to help the kids pass the writing exam at Catella, because it used to have where you had to pass this writing exam to graduate. And so I was specifically partnered with seniors to work there. And then when I was at South, I was working with 8th graders who were struggling in their writing. And so I was using my grammar skills and my essay writing class to help them. And I just really enjoyed it. And I did that job. And while I was doing that job, I did it for 3 years. And that's when I switched my major and I became an English major and then went into teaching.
So arguably, right, teachers should love their content, but also love the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think sometimes teachers struggle with that because they love whatever content and may not feel the same about the kids, right? Why don't the kids understand what I love? So we could talk more about that, but I think the identity of the teacher is evolving, especially in this day and age, right? It's no longer that you just are content driven, it's content and kid driven. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I'm all about choice, and I love that our schools, especially at the high school levels, we're starting to see those choice classes that they can take, so that they can drive their passions.
So we're going to be talking about Google certificates in this English class, but before we do, I think that how did your relationship evolve as co-teachers?
So as SDC department chair, we at Catella really wanted to start incorporating our students into more general education classes, especially our seniors and our juniors, just to make sure that they're better prepared for their future once they left Catella. Michele heard that we were looking for teachers to team up with, and she volunteered to host students with disabilities in her classroom. And so we have been co-teaching now for 3 years. We started off during distance learning and built a relationship much like we're doing now online. And we've really taken off from there.
So I'm going to pause for a second just to talk about Google and our relationship with Google. They approached us about a little over a year ago with an opportunity to integrate Google certificates into the school day, into content. Mm-hmm. And their big idea is that if kids can graduate with a Google certificate, they will have better skills for internships and for jobs even right out of high school, college internships and jobs out of high school. And I think that nationally, for sure, nationally, we're the first district to partner with Google and to show success. Last year, we had about 150 students graduate with a Google certificate, giving them a leg up on other college-bound seniors, but also people that want to go straight into the workforce. Arguably, Google is putting a lot of tension on traditional higher education, right? Because you can get a Google certificate, pay $600 or $700 over 9 months, and go out and get a job, and even get a job on par with what would be a bachelor's degree in certain areas. And that's really a mic drop. I think over time, Google and companies like Google are going to almost compete with a regular bachelor's. What do you think about that potential? And do you think that's a good thing or bad thing? Or do you think that students are in a position now where they're questioning the cost of going to college, the time it takes to get a bachelor's, and the job prospects? Michele, we'll start with you. What do you think about Google making that type of big move?
I think it's actually very innovative, because being that I've been at the senior level for a long time, I do deal with what comes next. And the students are, as you said, like really conflicted with, do I go? It's going to cost money. My parents can't afford this. And then what's the guarantee I get what I get? What if I can't complete? And a lot of them, when they leave high school, they feel they don't have skills for whatever it is that they're going into. And that's one of the things I really like about this program that we're working on, is the skills that they have are skills that they can use in everyday life. And getting them to realize that you don't have to necessarily become the project manager, but you do have these projects in your own life all the time. And these are skills that they need honing.
And again, because of our partnership, they have waived the licensing, so there's no cost to this for our students. Cheryl, you work with a lot of, obviously, with our special ed students. how have how does this change maybe their trajectory?
This gives them, so, many of our students with disabilities traditionally are not college bound. And I would argue that often that question of what comes next is more urgent for them than for other populations of students. And so having these skills and having the potential to have a job that pays a wage that's high enough to stay in California and in Orange County, I just think it's such an amazing opportunity for them. And we've really seen some of our students take off, students who don't normally succeed in an academic setting, really excelling with this. And so it makes me excited for what comes next for those students in particular.
Yeah, I think we're going to start sort of monitoring what comes next for them, right, and keep in touch with many of them. But people ask me, other superintendents, like, how do you get teachers to do this? Did you make them do it? Or could you share how we approached this opportunity for teachers? Michelle?
Sure. It was kind of like sent out on an email blast. And Amanda Bean sent out an email saying that they would like to entertain this idea of connecting courses like English 4 for the seniors with a Google certificate. So ours particularly is English 4 project management. And she asked if there are people who were interested in this course. And I love the idea of integrating different components and seeing how they work. And so I immediately signed up and we started, and I was asked to start the program so that I can see what it's like and how it would fit in. And then once I completed, I then reached out to Cheryl and I said, do you think our collab classes could change to this? So she said yes.
That's a big question, right? And Cheryl, did you take the class too, or how did you get involved in it?
Yes. So I started it later than Michelle, but I have been working through the class as well, which has been very helpful in helping students because Michelle took it over the summer and then I was taking it with our students, which allowed for me to help them more.
Do you think, Michelle, as a core teacher in English, that from a student perspective, is this how are the students responding to this? Like, wow, this isn't an English class.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Cheryl can probably say is that we hear that this is not the normal class. Yes, we still do some literature, we do the standards that we have to do for English, but at the same point, it's intertwined with the Google certification and projects that we do. So everything that we look at is through a project lens. So when we're reading a book or something, we're looking at it through, like, for example, we read Into the Wild. And so as we're reading Into the Wild and we're looking at McCandless's journey, all the different locations he's going and doing, Cheryl brought up saying, hey, why don't we try having them do a travel vlog project? And so they are following the path too, and that they're doing a component along with it. So everything that we read is through the eyes of whatever area on the course we're doing too.
So Cheryl, so you came up with this idea of the travel log and putting it in groups. How does that, from a teaching standpoint, that's pretty creative. Does that give you sort of that high in teaching too?
Yes. So Michelle does the most amazing job of incorporating what we're learning into these projects. And so our co-teaching relationship, we've really just kind of blossom when we run ideas off of each other. And so just based off of that, it was really fun. It was a really fun project. Students were very into it. They learned project management skills while also just getting deep into the literature and learning more about our country as well as they planned their trips around the United States.
Michelle, do you think that this actually enhanced their learning of from an English teacher perspective of going deeper through this particular project. What makes it different than just teaching a traditional Into the Wild unit?
Yeah, so like I've taught the book before on its own, and traditionally you read through it and you read it as here's McCandless, here's the story, here's the structure, and you do some like literary elements, like let's make a postcard or let's do these certain things. But going this route, we were able to see it in a different light, and that's one of the things that a lot of our students said. They were like, "Wow, I really like this book," which before it would be like, "Oh, it's really weird. It's written this way, and it's But now they were like, "Oh, now we can see here's where he went, or this is what he's doing, and this is why he's there." And then they'd say, "What else could we do there?" So at that location, when they're creating their travel blog, they're like, "Well, he didn't say where he stayed or what he did. What's happening in that town?" And so they started questioning themselves. And I think that's the big thing for us, is when they start questioning and looking into it themselves.
Absolutely. Now, do you feel, Cheryl, that the students kind of understand what this application of a Google certificate in project management, how they're learning a skill that they can take outside of school?
Yes, and I think that has been a big motivating factor for them this year as well. Just how transferable these skills are into everyday life in addition to project management. We talk a lot about how the project management skills that they've learned can be transferred into planning a wedding, how they can be transferred into all of these different life events that moving.
Yes.
These different life events that they'll experience one day that require some organization, require collaboration with other people. And so, yes, they're very excited by these transferable skills.
That's fantastic. How are other teachers responding to the Google certificate being integrated into a classroom?
Well, I know like at our school, we also have another Google certification. We have a teacher that's doing the data entry. And so I think it's just something different. And our school is very open to all of these different components. We've started quite a few of the different movements, like, like reading movies and stuff like that. But looking at that idea of bringing in a career aspect, I think is important. And being like really college and career ready, this is giving them that opportunity to get those skills for the job.
Yeah, you had mentioned that your school, Catella, especially with the English department, right? You guys are spearheading Catella Talks. There's a lot of, and you mentioned reading movies for seniors. There's a lot of innovative ideas coming out. How do we grow that at other sites?
That's a great question.
Well, with this Google,
yeah, go ahead, Cheryl.
With this particular, our Google project management course, we do have a cohort with teachers at Magnolia and
Anaheim and Kennedy.
And so we meet regularly, either online or in person, and we discuss what's working for us, what hasn't been working, and really just brainstorm on how to roll this out to a larger audience.
I think that's fantastic. Have you heard it at all from parents and their responses to their kids getting a Google certificate?
I can talk specifically about like going into IEPs with the special ed students, and a lot of the parents are very excited about the fact that they are going to get this certification. And so making sure that we're working with them and getting, because some of the students need a little more one-on-one with the quiz, with the quizzes and stuff, but learning those skills that they can take on. So I know with the SPED parents, they're very excited about it.
Yeah, we definitely, Michele, we definitely need to help share that narrative with SPED parents, and especially even with the other teachers that may not think SPED kids can do this, right? It's pretty amazing. Cheryl, your comments on that?
I'm always very passionate that we do not limit what our students with disabilities can and cannot do. And so I'm very proud of the success that our students with disabilities have had in this course, and that it can serve as a model that really this certificate is accessible to the vast majority of our students.
And Michele, in the closing minute or so that we have, and I'll come back to you, Cheryl, it's kind of a similar question. How would you sort of sell your English class to the average kid on the street at Catella?
I had to create a video for that. So I basically tell them it's something that's non-traditional, and that it's a class where you get to collaborate a lot and bounce ideas off of other people. And so for the students who traditionally, they just want to talk, they want to, talk about life things, that can come into our class because they can create, like right now, they're going to start moving into their Catella Talks, but they're talking about all these different components and they get very excited about it. And so getting them to realize that the projects that we do are life type projects, and they're not necessarily like, oh, here, build a board game or something like that, but they're like projects specific to things that they could possibly use in life. And so I sold it as a life lesson.
Do you think that we can get kids to even talk about, through their Catella Talks, about the Google certificate?
Possibly. Unfortunately, my kids already chose their topics.
Oh, okay. Well,
but we did have students create videos to market the class to juniors for next year. So at the semester, we did have some students create videos. It was a project they could take on, an elected project if they wanted to.
But if you, Michele, I mean, really, it's never too late. But this could be something that like even Google would be interested in too. If we, had a kid out there touting the Google certificates, I think that'd be awesome to see.
Yeah, I'll talk to them tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cutting edge stuff that, happening in our district, and we only go as far as our teachers. So we're so proud of the work that you've done. I know the board's very excited about it. Google nationally is very excited about this because it's truly transformational. I think for all of us, right? We're trying to put kids in a better position once they graduate and have more choices in life. And this Google certificate, it's truly the 5 C's in action, right? Group project management is an application of the 5 C's. So I really obviously strongly endorse it as well. But on behalf of our entire district, we're so proud of the work that our teachers do on a daily basis, and you guys are in the front line. So thank you so much for this interview today.
Thank you.
Thank you.